Hey everyone home, I'm Lindsay.
Hey guys, Jeff Ford, head coach of fire coaching, and we are here just kicking off our podcast series called Train Less for Boston. Lindsay Martin, she's our registered dietitian and also a pretty good athlete herself. Today we want to just talk to you about kind of where we qualified for Boston, what we're up to with this podcast series, and how our first week of training went. So, Lindsay, you want to kick off with how you qualified and where?
Yeah, so growing up, I played soccer my whole life, and so I just basically got into running, I'd say about 2 years ago, more religiously. And I always, at first, I had no clue about training a different way other than what I would look up on the internet. And it was, if I signed up for a half marathon in Indianapolis, and it was like, okay, you have to run, just increase your miles as the weeks go on. Nothing about strength training, nothing involved in that aspect. So when I got to Hilton Head and when I found out about CrossFit Endurance and Jeff and his program, I basically just completely 100% bought into it without necessarily questioning it.
And that was your first marathon, right?
Yes.
So no previous traditional training towards a marathon, and tell us how that went.
So I was at the Cincinnati Flying Pig. This was May 2013, and not gonna lie, very nervous.
What was the furthest run you did?
15 miles was the furthest.
It's intense.
Yeah, pretty. I remember even that 15 miles, it was like, oh wow, 26.2 is really gonna suck. But it went well, and got to practice the nutrition and ran the bridge in Hilton Head a couple times just because the Flying Pig was going to be really hilly. And I ended up qualifying for Boston with a time of 3 hours and 32 minutes.
I'm pretty sure she went to the bathroom a couple times because that's Lindsay's tendency.
That's
in
my
races.
problem. I went to the bathroom 3 times. My first mile was 10 minutes. So I looked at it, and one of the biggest things people told me was don't go out too fast, and I took that probably a little too literal. But yeah, it was exciting, and found out that I qualified, or that I got into Boston just, I guess, not too long ago.
Yeah, and I mean, for those of you who don't know, Flying Pig Marathon, it's not the easiest to qualify for Boston. Tons of hills, weather is pretty unpredictable there. I know you didn't have any trouble with that too much on that day, but
no, the weather was fine, and I wouldn't ever recommend anybody to run that marathon for their qualifying, but it was fun and a great crowd support. And yeah. I'm from Cincinnati, so it made it that much better.
Yeah, so pretty cool results. Lindsay, never did the traditional way going towards a marathon, and that takes guts to kind of go out there and just trust the program and not run more than 15 miles before your first marathon, with everything that's out there saying that you need to get that 18 or 20 mile run, and some training plans having 3 20-mile runs in there. So pretty cool. And,
yeah.
And if I'm correct, you weren't trying to qualify for Boston either. Like, you didn't go in, hey, I'm going to qualify for Boston.
No, I just wanted to try and do the best I could, but there was a Palmetto Bluff half, and based off that time, I knew that it was possible, but given that it was my first marathon, I wasn't going into it like, oh, I've got to qualify for Boston, or it wasn't even on my mind towards the end of the race where I'm like, oh wow, I kind of have a shot here. So.
Yeah, so pretty cool. I guess I'll tell my background a little bit. I got into running. I wasn't a college athlete, high school athlete, played hockey, golf. Didn't grow up running or anything like that, and moved to Hilton Head Island. That's where we're based now. We both work out regularly at CrossFit Hilton Head. I'm a trainer there, and I also lead our endurance programs there. That's where we've developed the FIRE method of endurance training, and it's based off a lot of CrossFit endurance principles, but we kind of made it our own a little bit. So that's what we'll be describing in this series quite a bit more, and giving you guys some details on that. But anyways, yeah, moved to the island. Hadn't ran before at all. I was mainly just a fitness guy. Did back and buys and chest press, and went in and was used to the old school traditional way of training. So went out, did my first 5K. This is before I even knew anything about CrossFit or Craig Heisel and his strength and conditioning program. And 5K was, around 19 and a half minutes. I came in like third place, and I was like, whoa, I guess I got somewhat of a talent for running. So long story short, hit that 5K, then I built my way up to a 10K, and I was like, I want to do a half marathon, and I went to the marathon distance and was going traditional the entire route. So I had done the normal build-up runs of, 5 to 6 days a week, always hitting that 15 to 20 mile run on the weekend, not at any specific pace. There was little to no speed work, and the first marathon that I did complete traditional method was around, I think it was 3:05, and I did qualify for Boston in that first one, but felt beat up. And so I kept training this way just because I loved running. You find something you're good at, and you're like, man, I just want to keep doing it.
Well, it worked. It got you there.
Yeah, it worked. It got me there. But, little do you think of what were the consequences. And as I started to train more and more, I started to figure out that there were all these overuse injuries. Like my knee was starting to hurt. I remember going out for a training run, and I had to completely stop the training run because my back was flared up and everything was just destroyed. I was going out for an 8-mile run, and I made it like 800 meters. So went into my second marathon. It was the New Hampshire Marathon, hilly course, and I remember I couldn't run for 4 weeks leading up to the race. So I was just swimming and doing my 3x15 sets of strength and conditioning, and just trying to stay in shape. I know I probably did some elliptical just because I was beat up. I had to shut down the running because I had like ilioband syndrome, Achilles tendonitis. I know I've struggled a lot with chondromalacia. What's your experience with injuries? You haven't had too much, right?
I haven't had too much, but I used to never have had horrible form, but I used to use my hips a little bit too much versus actually using my hamstrings, so I would get some hip issues. But other than that, not a lot of injury, but grateful for it.
Yeah. And I mean, I was caught in that web of injuries, and I think you see this a lot with runners. Over the course of a normal year, 85% of runners get injured. I mean, that stat's quite real. So anyways, I went to my second marathon, New Hampshire Marathon, super hilly course. I just sucked it up and got through this race. Time was right around the same as what I had done at Charlotte Thunder Road. That was my first marathon, and I ran about a 3:04. Came in 4th overall. So, I mean, I probably should have just stayed traditional, right? Because it was working. But I literally had my brother and my dad on the course with painkillers and some anti-inflammatory cream because I didn't know if at like mile 13 I was still going to be like feeling okay. It's just crazy to think like that's what you think about when you're going to a race.
That's not fixing the problem.
Yeah, not at all. So anyways, this was about the time that I got hooked up with Craig Heisel over at CrossFit Hilton Head. And obviously now I'm a trainer there, and we're doing big things and running super fun programs and getting a lot of athletes involved. But he was like, hey, Jeff, I know you're a runner. Like, immediately I stepped into CrossFit, and I was beat up, destroyed. Like, I thought I was the fittest guy out there. I do marathons, But Craig, he kind of proved me wrong. And just simple body weight exercises and functional movement got the best of me. How did you feel in your first, day or a couple days of CrossFit?
I was destroyed.
Yeah.
But, I remember my first CrossFit workout was death by hang cleans.
Oh, no.
So, the next day, I felt like I could not even just lift up my arms.
Oh.
Or even just my lats were completely sore. But it definitely opened my eyes that, going out for a jog or a run at 70% of my potential isn't really getting me anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's been the biggest learning experience is that, physiologically, we know we can improve our fitness now through anaerobic training and these faster metcons, and we'll get to that. But anyway, so yeah, got hooked up with Craig. Was doing the CrossFit, and I was trying to marry traditional training with CrossFit. So trying to run 40 to 50 miles a week and CrossFit 4 to 5 days a week. I would walk into that gym with like my eyes glazed over, classic examples of overtraining. And at this point, I wasn't a coach there.
Plus, he was working at a place.
Yeah. So my background actually comes from a traditional type facility, Hilton Head Health down here in Hilton Head, South Carolina. And traditional, it's a weight loss spa. We have guests who came and stayed with us. Lindsay still works there, as a matter of fact. But guests come stay with us, calorie controlled diet. Most of the fitness regimen is cardio classes and traditional body sculpting. The stuff that we typically think of when it comes to strength training or regular fitness.
It follows the ACSM.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd even be having to teach classes over there, and the recovery was just terrible. Just being completely beat up, going into these races, and that was along the same times of that New Hampshire Marathon. But anyways, so listen to my coach, Craig. He said he told me about this method called CrossFit Endurance, and I was like, Craig, you got to be kidding me. The prescription here is less than 20 miles a week on most weeks. So he said, just give it a shot, go for it, see what happens. And I stayed strict to it. I was nervous as heck, and I think that's what a lot of our athletes, when they first start working with us, they're like, man, so I don't have to run 20 miles. And that's where, going that distance, it's the mental thing and the nutrition thing that Lindsay talked about, are probably two keys to definitely square away. But I had already completed the marathon. I knew I could run a marathon. Long story short, stayed strict, no more than 3 to 4 runs a week. And most weeks 3 intervals, tempo, time trial on the weekend. Furthest run going into the Narragansett Marathon, where I hit this huge PR of 2 hours and 49 minutes, and that was about 16-minute PR from the traditional training that I had done in the past. So I was blown away. I was sold. And what sold me the most is I felt the best at the end I had ever felt in a marathon. I was running, the last 2 miles were like 6:20, and they were faster than when I started the race. Anyways, I qualified again for Boston up at Charleston Marathon last year. Ran a 2:57. I was still a little beat up from my first Ironman that I did.
He's an Ironman.
Yeah, whatever. But we'll get to talking all about that. But that's just kind of the background of how we came to this method. I come from the traditional side. Lindsay went all in right off the bat.
All in.
Yeah.
But, we've got so many people on the endurance team now, and so many different ages. And, for some that grew up running, it is still a battle of them just kind of questioning the training, even though they get faster every single week. And
and
they feel good.
Yeah. And that's why we're kind of doing this podcast is, number one, we want to share with the world what the FIRE method is, what CrossFit Endurance is, what we're doing down here in South Carolina, because there is a different way to train. But number one, lifestyle, we're not out there killing miles. We're able to enjoy ourselves, spend time with family, friends. Number two, the recovery side of things is, CrossFit beats you up, and some of these CrossFit workouts are tougher than those 20-mile runs.
Yeah.
But you come out of there less time, and we know we're getting faster too.
Yeah.
So lifestyle, recovery. What else do you like about the training?
And maybe this is me being, I love the social aspect of it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. From a more technical side of things, Jeff coaches all about technique. So that you learn the technique first, then you build on the intensity, and then the volume comes with it. So it's not like that there's not volume there. It's just typically it's one day out of the week where there's more volume. Exactly.
Yeah, and with our more advanced athletes, we kill the volume. Like Lindsay and I, we're pretty top athletes when it comes to this type of training. We've got a few other girls, really fast girls, who are running with us now.
Yeah.
Some new guys coming on. But what's crazy about it is that we do time trials in the training program. It's set up where at least every month we're tracking what's happening, and I don't know. It's almost every time we do a race pretty much it's 95, 100% people PR, unless it's a nutrition issue or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good things.
Yeah, so good things. You want to talk about the first week of training, and then we'll wrap this first week's podcast up?
Yeah.
How'd your week go?
So my week went pretty well. This is the first week that we officially started training for Boston, which is April 21st.
Mm-hmm.
And
so we're about today? 16, 18 weeks out.
It's January 13th.
Yeah.
12th, 13th, one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, this was the first week that I incorporated just a strength day, which is a lot different than what I've done even going to CrossFit. So I think I did 3 WODs, or workouts of the day. Conditioning. Yeah. And I laid off the running this week.
Mm-hmm. You've been running like all year long, so we're kind of just playing it as like a recovery a little bit, and making sure that, I mean, we're still 16 weeks out. No need to hammer anything yet.
And so 3 WODs, and then Wednesday, so midweek, I did just a strength day of back squats and front squats, and a little bit of other like accessory work, which was good. I was super sore the next day, but a good sore. And today I went swimming, so a little cross training.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a good first week. I'm looking forward to next week just to see, because next Saturday I'll get back on the run. Yeah,
totally. Lindsay was spending some time on the rower. The rowing's always going to help a runner too. I think kind of what's great about this program also is the variety of it. You can't get bored doing the different types of conditioning we do, the different workouts that we do. And I mean, props to Craig Heisel. We'll talk more about Ironman Cozumel, but I had an 87-minute PR at Ironman Cozumel, and didn't bike more than 60 miles, didn't run more than 13 miles in preparation for this race. So this stuff works, number one, but it's also a lot of fun, and we get the variety there.
How was your week?
My week was good. It's good to not be having to swim and bike as well as run right now. I am still going to be hammering the bike because it's my weakness for Ironman. So I'll be getting on there once a week. This week was strictly running. I did three runs, a few interval based, and a one longer time trial or tempo type effort this weekend with the team. But yep, solo strength day, 3 or 4 conditioning in there. On average, as far as the miles, it was probably only tops 12, 13 miles this week in actual running. And then hours of training, probably about 7 to 8 hours this week.
How much did you mobilize?
Mobility's been decent. Probably about, I've had 3 days that were consistent. We're going to have to get on that after this for about 30 to 45 minutes. Hopefully. We try to do it every evening, and we know that's going to give us even more of an edge when Boston rolls around. But week's been good. We'll share some more details next week. Right now, it's all about building durability. So we're really hammering home the strength for a few weeks. And we got a fun CrossFit competition coming up at the end of the month there.
That'll be fun.
So, yeah.
You'll all be drinking the juice soon. We call it the juice.
Yeah, we call it the juice here at CrossFit Hilton Head. It's cool because we have so many different ages of athletes, and it's crazy to... we just retested a 1.5 mile time trial from folks who've been training with us for 8 weeks now, and some of them shaved off 60 seconds from their 1.5 mile time trial in freaking 8 weeks.
And they're the traditional runner.
Yeah, traditional runner, and they're not even doing all of the strength and conditioning pieces. Some of them are, but when we put all this molds together, all these things together, really big things can happen. So, we've been talking a lot this first podcast.
Yeah. We should probably go mobilize.
Yeah, we're going to hit the mobility. This was Train Less Towards Boston, podcast number 1. And we will get back on it to you guys next week, tell you how things are going, and stay tuned.
That's right. Drinking juice.
Drinking juice. This is Jeff Ford, head coach of Fire Coaching, and Lindsay Martin, our registered dietitian and athlete, of course.
Yeah.
Take care.